Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Talking Twist, a podcast where I talk about whatever I want that's twist related, and answer some questions submitted by fellow Twist fans. That's it. That's the vibe of the podcast. This is really a place for me to discuss things that wouldn't necessarily warrant their own video. I got this idea from Toast, who runs the Freddy Fazbear Pizza podcast, and also I've wanted to do a twist related podcast for a while, and now I am. I did originally want to have a partner for this, but I don't exactly have a lot of friends, so I'm just going to do this on my own. If you'd like to check out a list of topics discussed today, they'll be down in the description along with timestamps in case you want to skip around. But without further ado, let's get on to our very first topic. Today's main topic is Twist in Otome fan games and dating sims in general. I've always wanted to do a dedicated video on this topic, but I've never had the time and there's just so much I want to say on it. Honestly, I could probably make several videos on it, but I'm gonna try and condense all my thoughts into a somewhat coherent package. I mean, it's me, so it's not gonna be 100% coherent, but we're gonna try. There are discussions that will never die in the Twist fandom, and one of them is the Otome debate, which, to be honest, I'm kinda surprised it stuck around this long, but I guess with the initial misreporting of genre when the game was first announced, it was bound to stick. In the initial reporting on the game back in 2019, the game was said to be a dating sim, which got a lot of people excited. It was only later that the record was corrected. And since then, there's been talk of whether Twist would have been better as a dating sim, and players setting out to make their own Otome fan games. Despite the fact Twist isn't a dating sim, let's be real here, the idea of a dating sim is low-key woven into the fabric of the fandom, at least for Kaigai fans. Also, as a quick side note, although there is technically a difference between Otome games and dating sims, I'm using the terms interchangeably since the distinction does not matter here. But I know there is technically a difference, I just don't care. I just don't care right now. Twist content is what made my channel blow up, so I expect the majority of you to be completely unaware of this. But I started out making Otome content. Sort of, it's a long story, but it was some of my earliest content. I love Otome games and I have a PhD in Otome game studies. I'm kidding, I have a bachelor's in anthropology with my focus being on cultural anthropology. Although I did actually do quite a few papers in my classes on video games and gender, because I did a whole bunch of, gender and sexuality classes too, so... now that I think about it, I probably could have minored in that, but anyways, on top of the various essays I've written, I've actually made Otome fan games before, albeit for a different fandom, so, I know how to make a dating sim. But regardless, I'm well versed in this category of game, especially when it comes to mobile Otome games. So the first subtopic I want to cover is why Twist as is couldn't work as a dating sim, and propose a way it could. I want to explicitly explain that, when I say that, I literally mean Twist is, the exact same thing, but, it's an Otome game. Literally the same thing, but there's just romance. Explicit romance, that's it. I'm sure if Twist had been intended to be an Otome game, Toboso would not have the structure we have now. But I feel like a lot of people, when they're discussing this topic, they're talking about either adding Otome elements or the game being the exact same but just a dating sim, which is what I'm talking about. So that is what I mean. The prologue is the same, the battles and rhythmics are the same, but when we get to book 1, we have an option of picking a route for any of the Heartslobule boys. Once we go through all 5 routes, book Savannah Claw is available with 3 love options, and so on and so on. Let's talk about why this wouldn't work before we get to possible solutions. Most Otome games have the player do some sort of prologue before choosing their love interest and then reading through that specific character's route. These routes may have sequels, but most of the time these routes are their own standalone stories. Or they're very loosely tied together, but still very much stand on their own, and you don't have to read the other routes. For example, in Mystic Messenger, you can read Zen's route and you don't have to read another route first to make the plot make sense. Twist's story builds from book to book, chronologically telling a story. I'm gonna call this concept chronological storytelling, so fancy, wow! And I know some of you are like, Mari, no dating sim would do that, that's dumb as hell. Oh yes, games have gone this route before, let me tell you. A lot of Solmare's earlier games like Blood and Roses and Wizard's Heart have employed chronological storytelling. So anyway, what's the pros of chronological storytelling in a dating sim? The main, good thing of this is that you can build longer story arcs and really build something over time, with each route working to build up this, grand story instead of trying to rush and tell it all in one. Let's be real, this is honestly the only good thing about it. The main problem with this kind of storytelling in dating sims is that it punishes readers who don't want to read every single route because then they're missing out on the story if they do skip. Not everyone will want to read every single route, so that means if someone skips a route, they miss information that comes into play for a route they do want to play. So let's say I'm not interested in dating any of the Heartslobule guys, I'm only interested in Leona. I would have to pick one HeartZlabial character to romance in order to progress the game, which sucks. If I don't want to do a route, I shouldn't have to read it in order to get to the one I want to. And even if I could skip straight to book Savannah Claw, like, by skipping Kate, Deuce, Ace, Trey, and Riddle, I'm missing the entirety of book HeartZlabial and jumping into the story at a strange place. And while HeartZlabial to Savannah Claw isn't the hugest leap, what if it's Savannah Claw to Pumpfiore? HeartZlabial to Ignihide? The chronological storytelling angle that Otome games sometimes use only ends up punishing players who skip routes and tries to force everyone to read every single route, which is not great. And also by doing that, the reading experience just fucking sucks. I remember for Wizardess, like, I skipped one route. I was literally reading every single one, and then this bitch Lucius came out, and I was like, I don't fuck with him, I don't like him, so I skipped his route, because why would I read it? I don't like him. And then, when the route after him came out, I wanted to read that, and I was massively confused, because it turns out that Lucius's route, the route I skipped, was super story heavy, and so my friend at the time, Grace, had to explain the route I skipped because I was so genuinely lost. Like, I've made it clear Twist could not be successful in storytelling if they went with chronological storytelling and remained a dating sim. Yeah, that's it. That's the tweet. That's the tweet. Our second issue is Yu. While Yu definitely has their moments of personality, all three of them, they're too much of a blank slate for an Otome game to really work. Although self-inserting is kind of the point with dating sims, sometimes if your main character is too much of a blank slate, it's not great. For a game where things are more one-on-one, it can be an issue, especially since Yu doesn't talk all that much. Like, let's look at Yu compared to other MCs, like Mina from Blood and Roses. Mina is a bad bitch in her own character, really. So is Saori from Ninja Shadow. Liz from Wizardess Heart isn't a bad bitch, but she is extremely her own character. So is Sunshine from A Date with Death. The way I see it, Yu is better for self-shippers. Because they're more of an observer, it lets fans better imagine how they would react to things or how they would do things. It's something that's easier when it comes to daydreaming. Admittedly, that can be a little more difficult when it comes to games that have an MC with a very obvious personality. Yu is honestly more quiet and mysterious, and while they definitely have their moments where it's clear they do have their own distinct personality, those moments are not often. So self-shippers fill in the gaps, and honestly, one of my favorite activities, not even joking, I love daydreaming. I love self-shipping. But yeah, like, it makes storytelling a little difficult in the context of a dating sim, so Yu would not work as is. So, one thing I see pop up a lot during this conversation is that some fans are afraid that if it were an Otome, we would get less interaction between the boys, which I actually disagree with. A lot of people seem concerned about this, so I'm gonna explain why I don't think it's actually an issue. While there would be more canon content with Yu, I honestly don't think a different genre would impact BL shipping too much, and here's why. My favorite Otome game of all time, Wizardess Heart, is a lot like Twist in that it takes place in a magic academy, although the one in Wizardess Heart is co-ed. Despite the fact this is an Otome game, it doesn't stop people from having gay ships. People ship love interests Luca and Elias together, and it's by far the most popular BL ship from the game. That's right, there's multiple. People ship Zeus and Hero, Amelia, which this is Yuri, it's not Yaoi, but anyways, Amelia, who's the best friend of the MC, is canonically bisexual, and is shipped far more with Baby Butch Scarlet and the MC, who's explicitly female, than her other potential love interest, Augustus, right? She has two. That's where the bisexuality comes in. These aren't cases of people looking at two characters and being like, oh, they just look good together. We see these characters interact all the time. Luca and Elias's routes launch with the game, and since they're very close friends with the MC and in her homeroom class, they're in every single route in the game, even if they aren't romanceable. And they interact with each other a lot. Like, we see them interacting with each other. This isn't just a, I know they talk off screen. We get them interacting with each other. Sometimes with Liz just observing, like how Yu does. The game itself will sometimes ship tease between two love interests. Like, the game has teased Luca Elias before, along with other gay ships. When you have a location like this, where they're all at school together and have a reason to interact, they're going to interact. And I think, if an Otome game like Wizardess can have the fandom, like, have gay ships, and honestly give them some pretty good food for those ships, I think Twist is more than capable. As well, considering how big of a yaoi fan Yana Toboso is. Like, you know she'll be giving people food for gay ships. You know she will do this. It's Yana. Like, her blood is yaoi. She would do this. Like, I understand the concern, but I'm like, guys, did you forget who made this game? Did you forget? Like, even if this wasn't Otome, you know she would be coming through for the yaoi fangirls. She will be coming through for her people, the Fujoshis, you know? But yeah, like, honestly, with my past experiences with Otome games, honestly, sometimes the games will go with it, and I don't get it. Like, I feel really bad for people who are genuinely concerned for this, but I genuinely don't understand. I genuinely don't understand. Another thing I see in line with this issue is that people don't want everyone in love with the MC, which I agree with to an extent. I don't want Ruggy in love with me. I don't want Apple in love with me. They also don't want guys to be outwardly nice to the MC from the get-go, but this is where I'm gonna come off as a bitch, but like, I'm saying this as respectfully and nicely as possible. Have you played many Otome games? Or are you just thinking that's how Otomes work? Maybe it's the games I play, but I can think of only 3-ish games where the love interests are nice from the start. Those being Ninja Shadow, Mystic Messenger, and Ikemen Revolution, although that last one, your mileage will vary. But for Ninja Shadow, it's because the MC joins a ninja vigilante group and the love interests are other vigilantes, so they're co-workers. Although honestly, this doesn't stop the love interest from being terrible. Fuck you, Asagi, transphobic ass bitch. Also, Yuzuki, you're on thin fucking ice. You are on thin fucking ice, motherfucker. Otome love interests tend to kind of be jerks or at the very least standoffish. I also don't think this is a huge problem for Twst, frankly. An unrequited love on the part of an unchosen love interest seems low. Like, for Wizardess, outside of spin-offs where you have to choose someone to romance and you're explicitly rejecting someone else, I can only think of, like, 3 out of the 30-something person cast in that game that have been shown to have actual crushes on the MC outside of their own routes. Like, that's extremely low. Like, that is extremely low. And also with the other games that I've played, like, it doesn't, maybe it's just the games that I'm playing, but it doesn't really happen all that often. And again, like, I get this is a legit concern, but again, I think it would be fine, to be completely honest. I don't think this would impact the yaoi as hard as people think it would, and I don't think that the guys would just be nice off the bat. Like, I really don't think that. I really don't. Twst as it is now cannot work easily as an Otome game. If it had been released as such, I don't think it would work in the long run and, like, make an enjoyable playing experience. So if we want to make Twst like an Otome game for everybody, we need to change a lot from story to even how the game would play. And this is the section where I'm like, but what if it was an Otome game? How would we change things to make it work? So the first thing, let's figure out the most basic thing. What story formula and framing are we going to use? To massively simplify things, there's 3 main trends or formulas for mobile Otome games. The ensemble cast, the phone boyfriend, and the traditional route. The ensemble cast is a game like Obey Me, where instead of having a singular committed partner, the player is more or less implicitly dating the entire cast, or at least a couple of dudes. Next, we have the phone boyfriend. I suppose Obey Me can also be in this category, but games like Mystic Messenger and Love Unholic come more to mind than Obey Me does. These are games where you pretend, text, and call characters who are the love interests, and this is the bulk of the game. And finally, we have traditional routes, which is the one storyline with the one committed partner, or at least it ends with one partner. It's like the go-to for Otome games, and dare I say it, the standard kind of route. And keep in mind, you can mix these formulas together. Like I said earlier, Obey Me is kind of a mixture of ensemble cast and phone boyfriend. Now, there's an infinite number of ways to write an Otome game, but these are the most popular ways that I've seen. And I think we're gonna have to take one of these formulas and be creative. I personally don't like ensemble cast games with the exception of Tears of Themis, although granted I'm not far into it. I don't want romantic attraction from characters I don't like, which is part of my issue with Obey Me. Like, I really only have the game for video essay purposes, and the rhythm game part, but like, the only characters I like romantically are Asmo, Solomon, and Simeon. Everyone else please leave me alone. I'm not here for you. I think this also runs into the, like, I don't want everyone in love with the MC argument. Not to mention, like, we would have everyone in Night Room College in love with the MC, and I'm like, no. No. And also, like, if we went with ensemble cast, balancing that many implied romances would be an incredibly difficult task and incredibly hard to pull off. Obey Me is an ensemble cast, and even they don't pull it off, in my opinion, but then I'm a hater, so, you know. Part of the reason I don't think Obey Me works is because out of the whole cast, only Asmo and Solomon and Nightbringer feel like my actual boyfriend. I love the other characters, like Veal and Simeon, although Simeon is like top tier bae. But at the end of the day, I feel like Asmo, and again Solomon and Nightbringer, is the only one I'm actually dating. And while it's nice to be able to ignore some other characters, it sucks that the one character I really want to date, it doesn't feel like we're dating. Or like, we like each other romantically. Obey Me is such a fucking weird game. I'll get to dissecting it in a later video, but I don't even know when that's gonna happen. Anyways, Asmo is really the only one that feels like my boyfriend in the original game, and Solomon in Nightbringer. And also Asmo and Nightbringer too. Asmo is just like, I love Asmo so much. Twist could take the ensemble approach, but again, balancing would be difficult and the cast is a little big. Not to mention from a marketing standpoint, this trend of ensemble otome is more or less new, and we don't know if the trend is here to stay. And considering not many games have blown up with this genre, it could easily end up failing at some point in the future. For Twist, perhaps this is a bit of a stretch and some people will disagree with me if this even counts or not, but I would like to propose a new type of game formula that I'll call opt-in/opt-out otome. This would be a variation of the traditional route. There are character-specific routes, but in addition to those for each book, there's a non-romance route, air quotes, so players can still play through the storyline of each book, but they don't have to romance anyone if they don't want to, and then they can also be up to date with the story and stuff. For events, they play basically like how we have events in-game already, except players will have a choice to opt in for romance or a bit of romantic aspects for one character. Each character would have their own opt-in option, and it's like one at a time, and if it's not toggled, by default, it's friendship all day, every day, baby! With this formula, romance options are available to those who want it, but people who don't want to date a character can still play and understand the story, and not get punished by the game for skipping routes or events. Our next issue is how to approach the story for each book, although I kind of alluded to it already. I'm gonna be honest, I think we'd only need some minor tweaks. The neutral routes would be the same as we have in-game now, and the other character-specific routes would be very similar, with maybe a few added lines or scenes for building relationships and stuff. We still need to tell a compelling love story while hitting the story beats of the book, so that way neutral route players will get near the same experience as the romance players. Or, if we want to be radical, we could have the character routes be, like, a lot different. Like, yeah, it follows the main story beats, but other things are different. For me, I'm kind of between, like, I want very similar experiences for all players, but then I'm also like, would a neutral route player care that they're missing at some scene where, like, the MC as Leona's partner figures out what's going on and confronts him? Are they gonna miss going on a disastrous cafe date with Kate? Or am I just thinking they would care when, in fact, no, they wouldn't. And it's not like the Otome players couldn't just play the neutral routes themselves at some point anyway, so they can just kind of meet people in the middle, basically. I think it'd be easier for them to do that than, like, force people who don't want romance to, like, go and read the romantic routes. But anyways, like, although now that I'm scripting this out, honestly, like, my issue with skipping in Wizard of His Heart was because there was no neutral route I could read to get the story. So when I skipped Lucius, I skipped the story, which is what I cared about. I didn't care about skipping romantic scenes with Lucius. I hate that bitch. I don't want his love. I was just mad I didn't know what had happened in his route when it came to the overarching story. Actually, I think I've changed my mind. The character routes can be more different, but still hit the main story beats as the neutral route. As a treat. And also, I don't think neutral route players would care about missing a coffee date for a dude they don't like romantically or something. And finally, we're at what will be the most contentious part of the thought experiment, at least I think it'll be, I don't know. Do we keep you, or do we play as another student? I actually really like you and their snark, so part of me doesn't want to can them. And also, I do want to try and keep as close to the game we have as possible. That's kind of the guideline for this. I think if we used another character, a lot of the game would have to be rewritten, and a lot of the fun isekai stuff would be gone, which honestly, I don't want. So I would elect to keep you, but show off more of their personality and character-specific routes. And finally, this isn't really about you, but this is a feature I would add into the game. Twist is one of the very few games that genders me correctly, but I know a lot of people do actually have a specific gender, and it's not just a vague no thank you like mine is. You uses jibun, which while it does literally mean myself, and it's like gender neutral, from the articles I've read, using jibun instead of watashi or ode or boku, etc., is very similar to non-binary people using they, them, and shows a rejection of the gender binary. So I would love to keep they, them pronouns in the game. However, a lot of my fellow non-binary peeps don't use they, them, so I'd like to add a section in-game where you can input your name, of course, but also pronouns so everyone can get gendered correctly. This would not be an opt-in or out thing, like, the game will not progress unless you specify. And also, it's my imaginary reimagining of Twist, and it's my turn with the inputting custom pronouns. But anyways, those are my thoughts on Twist and Otome, and trying to make Twist work as a dating sim. Fun fact, I've actually semi-plotted out 2 Otome fan games. Okay. Like, I mean, one of them is, like, completely plotted out, but, like, it's not done, really. Let me explain. One was gonna be a Christmas present with Leona, Malleus, and Vil routes for a few friends, but I quickly got overwhelmed with how many features I wanted, as well as writer's block. But yeah, like, the routes are all basically, like, plotted out, except for, like, Leona's, but even then, it's like, I have, like, okay, these beats are gonna happen for everybody sort of done, so that's why it's not, like, completely done, but, like, it's sort of done. At least with, like, plotting. My writer's block for fix and stuff has basically been near constant for, like, 2 or 3 years now. And then the other one, like, it's a lot simpler, but it's just the writing that's been getting to me. Not everything is outlined. The basic ideas are there, but, like, not everything is, like, outlined. That and I guess the scope is kind of large since it would be everyone in the cast, so, you know. I don't know if I'll ever make either. I do have, I think it was Deuce's route partially written for the simpler project, but that's not finished and it's still like 21 to go. I don't know, if I ever do finish and release it, I'll announce it when I'm like in the final stages of coding. For my older fan games, when I made them, I didn't have writer's block and I was churning out like 25 fix a month. So I was very used to writing a lot and I didn't have any block going on. So I didn't mind announcing it before I'd written anything because I knew it was going to get done. But now that I write like 1 fic per 6 months and I have writer's block all the time basically, I wouldn't want to announce it so early when there's no guarantee I'd finish it. But like I've definitely thought about doing it before and I've helped out with other projects doing like editing, but unfortunately those projects have never happened and been released for various reasons, but I don't know, maybe one day I'll do it. I don't know. I'd love to do it. I have no idea if my brain will let me though, since she acts like we're unmedicated and insists on having writer's block all the time. To finish off this episode, let's answer some fan-submitted questions. If you'd like to submit a topic for me to discuss, or you have a suggestion for a video, you can submit them to my suggestion box, link will be in the description. But yeah, let's go to question 1. Anonymous Any All asked, I don't know if you've done this before, but I'd be interested in the intricacies of transformation magic legally, and also what magic might be legal or illegal if that makes sense. Thank you for the question, and luckily I have made a video on this. It's called The Horrifying Implications of Crowley Having Transmutation Potions. I covered transmutation potions and magic fairly in depth with that video, or at least how deep we can go with current info. So make sure to give it a watch, link will be in the iCard and in the description. Let's move on to question 2. Kai He Him asks, will Twist be on multiple consoles? I get that it's a mobile game, but like, Pokemon Unite being on both mobile and Switch, would the same thing work on Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series X, PS5? It's me, boy, I'm the PS- No, Kai did not write that, I'm just thinking about that meme because I think about the it's me, boy, I'm the PS5 meme constantly. Anyway, back to the question. PC, etc. as well. If it stays on mobile, then it's fine, but other than that, what if Twist had something different exclusively to consoles only, even though it's free to play? Thank you for your question! I'm gonna be very, like, upfront. I've never worked with Unity personally, so I had to do some digging into this. From my understanding of Unity, which is, like, the engine that Twist was built with, yes, you can port mobile games to console. Some video games already do this. Like you said, there's Pokemon Unite, there's Genshin Impact, there's Honkai Star Rail. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones. It's absolutely possible to do, but I think the main thing is, would Aniplex and Disney do this? And to be honest, I can see it going either way. Disney and Aniplex are huge companies, and Twist JP makes like $4 million a month? Twist is a cash cow in Japan. Although I don't know how large the team working on Twist is, I do think the game profits could cover the porting process. Like, very easily. I think it could probably cover it, you know? I've never worked with Unity or ported to consoles, I've only ever published for computers. And even then, I wouldn't really even call it, like, publishing. I just put it on my Google Drive and then gave a link out to people who wanted the fan game. But from what I've read about Unity, porting to different platforms requires knowing how games work on other platforms and, in some cases, making pitches to get access to that info. Now, given Twist's track record and the companies backing it, I don't think the pitch process would be any trouble. Honestly, Aniplex probably already has this information. Or, wait, no, it wouldn't be Aniplex, it would be, F4 Samurai. Like, they probably have the information on how to, like, port things, honestly. The main thing would be hiring and or training staff members to start making the ported versions. The game can most likely afford this because, again, it makes an obscene amount of money. But the question is whether or not Aniplex and Disney want to. And I really hate to say it, but I think if Twist got ported, I think it would only be the Japanese version. The last time I checked, EN was making $400,000 a month, which is an insane amount of money, but Twist isn't the icon overseas that it is in Japan. I've only run into one Twist fan in the wild outside of conventions, and that was at an Angelic Pretty store in San Francisco. I constantly towed around my Twist Ita bag, and every single time I went to Disneyland after the game released in 2020, the only compliments are like notes I got about it, or like from kids who like how sparkly and jingly my bag is because it jingles because there's like a shit ton of like keychains in there. But like, no one really knows this game outside of Japan, so I don't know if the companies involved would think it needs porting for other countries. I would love for Twist to go to console. I would love an official computer version instead of running it on BlueStacks. Again, I could see them, like, porting the Japanese version, but ultimately I don't know. Going on to the second part of your question, though, I can definitely see Disney making more Twist and Wonderland games. They've been branching out into anime, into books, into manga. Like, I think it's only a matter of time until we get another Twist game. What that would entail, I don't know, but with how popular Twist is in Japan, I definitely think at some point we'll get another Twist game. I don't know if it'll be exclusive to consoles, though. And again, considering how much money JP makes, I could see Disney making a paid game. Or they could add Twist to Kingdom Hearts if there's a new game plan for the future. I don't go to Kingdom Hearts, so like, I don't know. Or maybe a dating sim finally. Nah, but for reals though. Time will only tell with all these questions, but I think Japan will get prioritized or be like, the only one getting these things. Not gonna lie though, it would be extremely funny. It would be funny, but I would be so mad. If they added Twist to Kingdom Hearts and we get a new Kingdom Hearts game, and that's how we get an English voice cast before the anime. I would be a little mad, but honestly, that would be a little funny. Like, I will fully admit that would be kind of funny. Let's move on to question 3. Anonymous Any All asked, also, I've been kind of curious about your OC question mark, since your videos are more focused on gameplay. Thank you for your question and enabling me to yap. So I'm not sure if you meant my VTuber lore or my Twist OC lore. I think you perhaps meant my VTuber lore, but I'll talk about both because I don't do a lot with my Twist OC, so this is like the only time I get to talk about her. I don't really have much lore for my VTuber, to be honest. I love VTubing, but admittedly, I made my VTuber because while I do like VTubing, I felt like having one would be better for my career and allow people to better connect with me and like my stuff if they had a face they could attach to me. I'm extremely ugly IRL, so I don't want to be on camera, like, ever. I always have been, and there's no amount of makeup that can make me look even, like, slightly okay. Like, trust me, I've tried. It's just, I'm too far gone. You know? So I've always been kind of, like, just a voice. I initially started content creation in, like, 2017-ish, but faceless, obviously. And it never took off at all. I only started getting like tens of views when I had made a name for myself in a small Otome fandom, but that was just because it was people who liked my fics or were my friends checking out my videos on the game we loved. And I mean, like, yeah, not all of them know what I look like. Some do because they follow my cosplay Insta, where I do like very rarely post full photos because again, they're my friends. But they all did have a face to connect with me since I did have a little avatar for that, like, community that I used when I would do, like, author's notes and, like, posts about that game and stuff. So, like, they did have a face they could put to me. So when I started getting more serious about content creation after I graduated from college, I thought VTubing would be fun and also allow for people to connect with me better because face. And not to mention, I do go on a lot of face journeys when I talk, and really the only way I can even somewhat convey those is through VTubing. Like, if I do have a silence, it's like, you can't have funny silences and stuff, but it's like, you can't really get, like, the faces I'm making unless I have a VTuber that I can control, and it's like, oh yeah, you can see the face journey going on. When I first made my model, I was more thinking of an idealized version of myself rather than a character. It was only later that I switched into a demon and then a dragon because, like, I can make my model whatever the hell I want, and I want to be a dragon! And also, I just learned how to do shit in V-Roids, so I can finally make wings and horns and shit. That being said, I do have, like, a really stupid and fun— it's not funny, it's just stupid— idea for lore for my VTuber that's not just me. My VTuber lore— this is canon now. My VTuber lore is, like, a bored dragon princess of a desert-themed kingdom found out VTubing was a thing, so decided to make a VTuber. But the VTuber is just what they look like in-universe, except they all have heart-shaped glasses. So yeah, that is the, canon lore now, and also that's just kind of my personal lore on that. So for my Twst OC lore, I have like 3, but my main one is Catherine. She has long, silvery white hair and blue eyes. I have a little profile for her somewhere, but my little blurb that I wrote for her is: a very young professor with dubious qualifications. Being one of the first girls officially accepted into NRC, Catherine used to be peers with some of the older students and now finds herself in the strange position of being their professor. Catherine runs a tight ship and is rather cold, but still, many students prefer her over the previous mythology professor, her father. She's twisted from Frollo, sort of, kind of, not really, so like, Catherine is the daughter of a nebulous character that's basically Frollo, but whereas her dad is a piece of shit and closer to Frollo, Catherine is more of an exploration of, like, how harmful Christian religions can be on people raised in those environments, and dealing with religious trauma and what those traumas lead to. And also for a more fun reason, so a train wreck of a person has to be the quote-unquote authority figure of the other NRC students when she is in fact literally their age. Her appearance is really the only thing twisted from Frollo himself since she has, like, you know, the white hair and blue eyes, but that's, like, honestly kind of it. I made her before Glorious Masquerade, so when Rollo came out low-key I was kinda mad. But now she and Rollo are cousins because I thought it'd be kind of funny and thematically appropriate, but to be honest, it's more of a gag than, like, an actual thing. But yeah, so Catherine's dad is an abusive piece of shit and was a professor at Night Riven College, teaching mythology and various other electives. Catherine's mom isn't in the picture for obvious reasons, so Catherine was basically raised on campus by her dad. Crowley, Train, and Cruel have all known her since she was, like, a baby, with Cruel being one of the few students who was kind to her and made sure she stayed out of trouble. But she was so little when Cruel was in school that she doesn't remember that it was him. Like, she was 3 when she met him, and now she's older and frankly a jaded bitch. And she and Cruel are constantly at each other's throats because they just do not get along. If we're going with canon compliance, which generally I don't, but like, if we're gonna go with that, Catherine grows up on campus and knows the other students, but she's homeschooled and only a few teachers will let her sit in on their lessons when she does reach high school age. If we're going canon divergent and NRC is co-ed now because I fucking said so, and this is usually what I go with, Catherine eventually enrolls in NRC and is sorted into Heart's Lobule. She becomes a house warden as a sophomore, but is not the best at it. Like, she's good at corralling and leading people, but as she gets older she realizes just how awful and, like, what a monster her father is. The inability to cope with that, the unrealistic and, frankly, misogynistic pressures put on her by her father in the church, and her own traumas lead her to start drinking pretty heavily at a young age. By the time she's a junior, she loses the housewarden position to someone else because of how many times she's gotten in trouble for underage drinking. She more or less sort of gets it together by the time she graduates. That goes for canon divergence or compliance, like the alcoholism is like a thing no matter what. But now she has the problem of her father being extremely sick, and instead of going off to her dream job of being in a professional choir in Fleur City, she has to stay on Sage's Island to care for him. Crowley, who does feel bad for Catherine since he's watched her grown up, but more importantly he sees an opportunity, offers Catherine a teaching assistant, quote-unquote, job at NRC. He's losing a professor, so on paper he takes over those classes, but in reality he's having Catherine teach them for him while he gets to do whatever it is he does and he pays her for it. He and Catherine are the only ones aware of the arrangement. Everyone else just assumes Catherine was a pity but, like, legal hire. But because Catherine was a classmate too, or at least knows a lot of the current students, not many of them respect her as an authority figure and willfully don't refer to her as professor, instead just calling her Catherine or her nickname Rinny, which she's always hated. She was a sophomore when Leona entered NRC and a junior when Malleus and everyone else enrolled, so she's known them for a while. The only students she knew that respect her position as a professor are Riddle, because of course he would, and Azul, who doesn't actually respect her, but he knows it makes her mad when people just call her by her first name, so he sucks up to her and doesn't use her first name around her, but like, he absolutely calls her Catherine when she's not in earshot. Lilia constantly calls her Rinny, so Malleus has picked up on that from him, and now it's a habit, so it's just like, oof. But yeah, like, I don't do a whole lot with her. Despite the dark backstory, I mostly write comedic pieces with her when I do actually use her. They're low-key dumb, but I don't post them and never plan to, so I can make them as stupid as I want. And now we have our final question of the day. Psychic X Hearts, him asks, this might be a bit out there to ask, but do you find it weird that the world of Twist does not have a human king that we know of, or was shared of in story as of yet? We know about Leona's connections, Malleus's, and even Kaleem making it very clear he isn't a prince in the story, which was very early in game. Makes me wonder if something happened to the last king of the humans, and what happened as a result of it. So, what? There was no royal heir, so humans are the only ones under no royal law? Or because of Silver in a situation, would he be given the throne all sword in the stone style? Kinda makes you think a bit. First off, thank you for your question! So I just want to give a disclaimer for this section that I'm going to be giving spoilers for chapter 5 of book 7. I decided to do some digging because your question made me stop because, like, yeah, it's honestly kind of weird that all the royalty we know aren't human, except for Silver, of course. But, like, that's not revealed until mid-chapter 7. But ultimately, like, I hate to disagree, but I don't think we have enough solid evidence on whether or not all human monarchies are gone. Especially considering there's countries we know nothing about. Like, no one from the main cast is from the Kingdom of Heroes, so we have no idea what's going on over there. Hell, I don't think anyone even knew it was a thing until the partial world map in chapter 6 dropped. And same with the Sunshine Lands, we don't know what she's doing. She's doing something. We don't know what it is, though. We have absolutely no information about those countries, and same with the unlabeled ones on that map. We don't know the specifics of the Land of Dawning. I know Crowley says when Styx kidnapped Vil and Co., he was brought to the mainland, or main island of the Land of Dawn, and he was brought there. And he had to face an inquiry in front of the Parliament. Parliaments generally have some kind of monarch or royal, like, family member in them. So that could imply the Land of Dawning either has a, like, constitutional monarchy, or it's a parliament without the monarch, like what Ghana has, according to Wikipedia. But ultimately, we don't know. I would also assume it's a majority human country, but that's just an assumption, and we don't know for sure. And then there's Silver's parents' home country. It's not specified where the Silver Owls hail from. It's implied to be from the east somewhere, if I recall correctly, but, like, we don't know for sure. It's also not confirmed, but probably likely that Silver was an only child. And since his parents were killed when he was a baby, he's probably the only royal heir from that family left. I'm gonna be so real, I had to go to the wiki GG for this next info because I straight up didn't remember. So, Leia and the Dawn Knight, Silver's parents, they lived in and ruled over the Sword Kingdom, which was founded on land stolen from the Land of Briar. It's a separate entity from their home country, I'm assuming, because for reasons that are gonna be very obvious in a moment. The Sword Kingdom died when Leia and the Dawn Knight did, so Silver would have no throne rights there. However, because he has an uncle who was rolling over a different country that didn't take over the Sword Kingdom, so I think they're two separate things, theoretically he may have a claim to the throne of that country. However, that's if there's still a monarchy going on there, which we don't know. We just know the Sword Kingdom doesn't exist anymore, so he can't have that throne, because it doesn't exist. We know there's still monarchies in Twisted Wonderland, although what species all of them are is unknown. Kaleem mentioned he has royal relatives, but if I recall correctly, he says that's through marriage? So I don't think that's strong enough evidence to say they're human. Fae marry humans, humans marry mermaids. For all we know, Kaleem's relatives married into a non-human royal family. I think unfortunately there's honestly like a lot about Twisted Wonderland we still don't know anything about. While the world building is good and it's really fun and I love it, this world is so vast and we don't know a lot about it. Like for example, we've been to like the Shaftlands like 3 times. So we know like more about that, but like the Queen of Roses we've been to 1 time. And really that 1 time we're just talking about Deuce's hometown and like nothing else. So it's like we don't really know anything about the Queendom of Roses either. It's just like we don't know a lot, and also the countries we have been to, we still don't really know a whole bunch about though. I will say, I find it strange that in a school with multiple princes and guys from other prestigious families, none of the humans minus Silver are any sort of royalty. Now, it could just be that there are princes there and they're just not in use circle. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird, but I also think we need way more information, especially about like the Sunshine Lands and the Kingdom of Heroes. Also, Scalding Sands isn't on that map. That's not important to the section. I just thought it was weird and had to point that out, that like, this isn't even a full map of Twisted Wonderland. Like, this is just partial. Like, we still don't have a full map of the world. And that's it for this video! For people who have sent stuff in that hasn't gotten answered, I have those, so don't worry. Either I'm working on those videos or I'm saving them for a later episode. Again, if you'd like to submit a suggestion, topic, or whatever, my suggestion box is open. Link will be in the description. This podcast is going to be once a month, so the next episode will be happening in September. That's all I can really think about with announcements, so yeah. Have a great day, night, whatever you're having, and I'll see y'all later. Man, I need to think of like a really good, like, stay sexy and, don't overpunch. God, no, I fucking hate My Favorite Murder. No, anyways, I'll see you guys in September. Or earlier. I don't know, but I'll see you later.